Why retirement is a conversation that we cannot put off. Why India cannot really wait.
The pension time bomb.
Okay.
So this is a term which is widely being used by global governments now, which means that there'll be only 2 working people compared to 1 person who's in the pension or the retirement phase. But governments are also realizing that they might want to increase the retirement age. The life expectancy is increasing, especially in India as well. It's projected to become 74.2, 74.3 over the next 2 decades.
30 years of working and close to 30-40 years of post-retirement life.
Correct.
That's every working year should support your current working year. Plus also one of the retirement years.
When you talk about inflation, you cannot miss the healthcare costs.
Absolutely.
And I think that is my retirement plan.
Right.
Which is what is happening with these 67 to 16% drop.
No, but then this is interesting. While inflation, people think that, I will reduce my expenses. A lot of people think, I will create a healthcare corpus and not take an insurance. This is a real problem. Inflation is just as much a problem. Healthcare is another problem. To be able to unlock cash flows from the wealth is a very interesting job to do. My assumption is that more than 10 crore people will retire. I keep asking people who are retiring in the next 6 months, what do you intend to do? How do you intend to spend your time? And said, dekha jayega, we'll see. You don't start with the calculator. The calculator can come later. Start with the calendar.
Yeah. One might want to go to Ladakh, one might want a ladle and a dhokla, whatever the preferences
There's
are.
a joke that says, now I have half the money and twice my husband.
Correct. But it is also about the family.
For families, we were talking about this rightly. Having this conversation in the family.
Right.
About retirement. That this is a big transition for the person who's going through it. It's not easy, right? It's not just the work or the job that they're walking away from. They're walking away from a sense of purpose.
Absolutely.
They're walking away from a title, from a sense of identity.
Maybe talk about reFirement a lot more than retirement. That could be the starting point, I believe.
Thanks for that.
Hi. I'm Bhuvanaa Shreeram, financial planner, co-founder at House of Alpha.
In today's episode, we're talking about why retirement is a conversation that we cannot put off. Why India cannot really wait. And we have with us Upasana Koul. She runs a research-led consulting firm called Eleveight, and they do a lot of fundamental primary research. And retirement is a topic that they've studied a lot about. And Upasana, lovely talking to you today. And tell me a little more. We're talking about this being urgent in India, but what's the trend worldwide? We have countries that are much older than we are. We are still a young country and we're already talking about retirement. So tell us a little bit about what's happening worldwide.
So thank you for initiating this conversation, because as you rightly mentioned, India's retirement stories, it's still being written. Now, coming to the globe, some very interesting things. There are 2 terms which actually will tell you what's happening around the globe. First is the pension time bomb.
Okay.
So this is a term which is widely being used by global governments now, considering the fact that the resources that they have currently to meet the needs of the retired people are very low as compared to the obligations that they have towards these pensioners.
Correct.
So that's been widely accepted that it's a ticking time bomb, and hence being called the pension.
The benefit plans, right? So
correct. Correct.
We moved away from that. Yeah.
Correct. And also along with that, very interesting term called as support ratio.
Okay.
So just to bring this into context, support ratio is simply a ratio between the number of workers below the age of 64, 65 and compared to the number of people who are above 65 and maybe not working, which is the ratio between both of these two.
Okay.
So to put this into context, around 1970s, this number used to be around 5.1, the ratio. It is projected to become less than 2 by 2050, which means that there'll be only 2 working people compared to 1 person who's in the pension or the retirement phase.
Okay.
And this ratio is dropping very fast.
Okay.
Especially for countries like Japan, where the aging population is much higher. This ratio could go down by 7 times till 2050.
Wow.
Compared to the other geographies like US or
So lesser number of people working compared to number of people who've retired.
Yes. Which is an alarming number for the entire globe. Secondly, the retirement age in across the countries is being it's been more stable, right? You've not seen too many changes.
Yes.
But governments are also realizing that they might want to increase the retirement age for people to continue working, which is fair.
Yeah.
But examples like France, which in 2023 increased the age from 62 to 64, and there was a huge uproar. Considering the fact that, what I'm indicating is that the governments recognize the fact that this could be actually a pension time bomb, and hence the need to find solutions across the globe to address this. Japan comparatively is more innovative in nature. So they have welfare schemes designed for people in the retirement space to inculcate hobbies or, encourage the silver economy, as we say.
Correct, yes.
More as compared to other geographies. But across the globe, the issue is real and it's being recognized widely.
Yeah. No, but Japan also is one of the blue zones, right? So
Correct.
where health-wise, they are probably a little better off.
True.
Interesting. No, but given all of this, Upasana, India is still a young country, right? Meaning we still have more than 50% of our population less than age 35. Do we really have to worry about retirement now? I mean, is this urgent?
It's definitely urgent, which is why we're having this conversation now. The life expectancy is increasing, especially in India as well. It's projected to become 74.2, 74.3 over the next 2 decades. Which means that if we do not prepare now, it might be too late. And you're even closer to the numbers yourself when you talk to people. I'm sure you realize that, when you speak with people, if they do not plan now, the moment they are ready for retirement, it might be too late already for a lot of them.
Yeah. Because, 30 years of working and close to 30, 40 years of post-retirement life.
Correct.
That's every working year should support your current working year, plus also one of the retirement years. So
absolutely.
that's as much as is necessary. And in India, given that we are an inflationary economy, meaning unlike Europe or America, where inflation rates are much lesser, we have, that is our ticking time bomb, probably.
Absolutely.
So people grossly underestimate the blind spot that is inflation.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Even the healthcare costs, for example, when you talk about inflation, you cannot miss the healthcare costs.
Absolutely.
And that might be even increasing at a higher rate compared to the regular inflation.
Absolutely.
And when you age, you would definitely want to consider healthcare costs a lot.
Yes. So this, while we were talking about Europe and US, and you were talking about the pension time bomb, in India, we don't even have anything like that. Only the government employees even get something like a pension. We did a research on retirement, and were there any numbers that were starkly alarming to you? When what came out of that research?
Very interestingly, there are 2 sides to the story. One part is very encouraging and it's equally heartbreaking as well. So just to give you an example, so roughly around 67% people have agreed that they think about retirement planning, or they believe that they have a retirement plan in place.
Okay.
Which seems to be a great number, encouraging number. But the concerning part is that only around 15% have formally created a plan. Yes.
67% are thinking about retirement, only 16% are doing something about it. Interesting.
And what's even more interesting is that I might believe that I have a plan in place. And it might be just, the fact that I have an LIC policy, I have a second home, I have something taken care of for children's education. And I think that is my retirement plan,
Right.
which is what is happening with these 67 to 16% job.
Yeah.
People do think that they have a retirement plan,
Yeah.
but in reality, only 15-16% might have sat with a financial advisor and created a plan which is a robust plan for retirement.
Yeah, likewise with health also, right? Many people
Correct.
think they are very healthy
Correct.
unless they
Correct.
get their blood
Correct.
works done, right? So
Absolutely.
it's the same thing. And probably, I mean, from as a financial advisor, I get to see only the 16% part. So with your perspective and you saying that there are a lot more people do more work, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So was there anything else that was starkingly, meaning this gap in thinking and doing is bad enough, but
Correct.
to create this sense of urgency, I mean, was there anything else that?
A lot of insights. So we were just talking about inflation a while ago, right?
Yes.
Inflation is topping the charts in terms of the biggest concern that everybody feels that
people are recognizing it.
They're recognizing it. They might not act upon it as we spoke about it, but they do recognize that inflation could be the biggest challenge.
Okay.
They also recognize, so roughly around 50% recognize that healthcare or their family health is of utmost importance to them. Half of them do believe that, that's a concern that they have to deal when they retire.
Yeah.
Again, thinking and doing are, separate issues altogether. They might think that they will need to take care of retirement health issues, but they might not act upon it yet.
No, but then this is interesting. While inflation, people think that, I will reduce my expenses and I will live a more easier life, and so I would be okay. But healthcare is not something that there's no false sense of comfort at all. There's real pain and there's fear when it comes to healthcare. And today, given that in getting an insurance after you're 60 is so much difficult, this is a real pain point. And I am not surprised that a lot of people recognize this.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you also deal with a lot of individuals, right? Who might, the 16% that might come to you for creating, a formal plan.
Yeah.
If I were to just, understand a bit more about it, what is your approach that you take for the health care part of it? Or do you see that becoming a bigger challenge for all of them?
It is, yeah, because a lot of people still think that the employer-provided insurance is all that they need. Any group insurance, for that matter, is at the whims and fancies of the person who manages the group, right? So it can be pulled off at any point in time. So just depending on the employer-provided insurance is dangerous, and to start with getting an insurance, starting the whole process after you're 60 is also super dangerous because you will not get an insurance. So what we tell our clients is that when you're healthy, get an insurance. Unless if you wait for falling sick, then you won't get that insurance. So at 40 and 45, you still have some kind of insurance. You've created some, records saying no claim records. You've created some kind of a backup in case of. Because a lot of people also want to move on from jobs. It's not that employment also is something that you're committed for life, right? So insurances are something that we'll have to start taking much, much earlier than we think we should be. And fortunately now changes have happened in the in PFRDA. They say, health insurances should be renewed lifetime. Earlier, you could not renew your health insurance beyond 70 and 75. That was ridiculous. But now you can renew lifetime. So it becomes useful. And a lot of people think, I will create a healthcare corpus and not take an insurance. Because the insurance, if I don't make a claim, then that money is a waste. Well, a healthcare corpus, if you use it up, it's gone, right? So it's going to take that many years for you to rebuild the corpus. But if you have an insurance, you just pay the premium every year and the corpus is reinstated every year. Right? So you have to get insurances, but there's a lot of scope for, for the insurance industries to do more about this, because this is a real problem. Inflation is just as much a problem. Healthcare is another problem. And I think another key challenge in retirement also, Upasana, as we see, is the regular cash flows. Right? Getting a regular cash flow. And this has multiple impacts. Like when your paycheck stops, there's a lot of anxiety. You might have all of the money. You might have properties. You might have money lying in the bank. You might have stocks and mutual funds and everything. But that paycheck is not coming. Right? So that is a cause of concern. And to be able to unlock cash flows from the wealth is a very interesting job to do. Because you have to know which ones to unlock when. If you're in a hurry to unlock value from some of the assets, the longevity of your portfolio can be deeply impacted. This is a method to how you will unlock. So cash flow generation, inflation, and healthcare, I would think are three key areas where a lot of people are missing the picture when it comes to retirement. And why we cannot really wait on this is that in the next 10 years, Upasana, I don't know if you have numbers to support this. My gut or my assumption is that more than 10 crore people will retire.
Correct.
And most of these people would have come into the workforce in the late 80s or in the early 90s. A lot of them in IT and BFSI and manufacturing industries, and they will all retire with money. It's not that they would have got their ESOP, they would have traveled the world, they would have had their exposure. They would retire with money, which means lifestyle expectations have gone up. It's not like the retirees 10 years back saying that, I am willing to go back to my hometown or I am willing to shrink my lifestyle. No. The lifestyle compromises are not happening. We used to living a certain lifestyle. Correct. We used to driving cars. We used to having chauffeurs, So we will not shrink our lifestyle, which makes it all the more.
Absolutely.
To sustain that lifestyle, you might have the money.
Correct.
But the sustenance of that lifestyle becomes questionable. I mean, I've seen very interestingly a client who had something like about 12-14 crores in wealth, across various assets and homes and rental yielding assets and everything. 12-15 crores, and we were confident, okay, maybe there shouldn't be a problem. We should maybe focus on legacy creation for her now. But when we ran the numbers, looking at her cost of living, we realized that the money was lasting until she was like 77, 78.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she was supporting her mother who's into her 90s, right? So it came as a big shock for us. So how much ever money you have, that false sense of comfort.
Correct.
It can, for her, she was this one single word that she said, thankfully I know about this now when I'm 57, rather than come to know about it when I'm 77.
Absolutely.
So, at least there's something that I can do about it.
So what you mentioned about this false sense of comfort, I think this is exactly what your 67 to 16% number reflects.
Correct. Maybe, you're right.
It does that, and one more data point, since we were discussing on numbers, 1 in 4 people actually do not know how much money they would require when they retire. Which is equivalent to, having that false sense of comfort that I have, maybe 10 crore, 15 crore. Yeah. But I think I am comfortable with respect to my retirement planning.
Yeah.
But I think what we're also missing, or the entire industry is missing, that there's a difference between just having that sense, a rough understanding of what I need, and having actual facts, and having a proper plan, or as you speak about, having a calendar versus a calculator.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into some more details on that, because that's interesting.
Yeah.
But having a calendar of what you need, when do you need it, how much do you need, and having a foolproof plan to do that is the most essential component. Rest of the things could be taken care of.
Yes.
And secondly, the changing family dynamics. As you mentioned that, the lifestyle remains the same. Your aspirations, you wouldn't want to cut down on your aspirations.
Yeah.
And also family structures are very different now.
Yes.
They're not the same.
Yeah.
So parents feeling the fact that, I want my child to live comfortably and not worry about my post-retirement scenario. Which is very different from how it used to be earlier. Earlier, the thought was that, I know that I'll retire and my family or my children will take care of me, which is changing very drastically in the Indian household as well.
Yes.
Majority, if you look at all the nuclear families,
Yeah.
this dynamic is very different.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Which means it's even more urgent to actually think about what your individual plan looks like.
True. So, but one of the important part of the work that we do is while we are financial planners and wealth managers, and that's our bread and butter work, our experience over the years is showing us that the problem is not really lack of money.
Okay.
The problem is it's not a money problem at all. Retirement is not a money problem, not just a money problem.
Just a money.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's not a money problem at all. It's not just a money problem because people will have money. Like we were saying, they will have money. What they don't have, what we're seeing, and I keep asking people who are retiring in the next 6 months, what do you intend to do? How do you intend to spend your time? And said, dekha jayega, we'll see. When we get there, we'll figure out, right? And this is dangerous. This we've seen, in the first 3-4 months is like, oh, okay, there's a lot of free time. Let me do this and that and chill. And then slowly it becomes Netflix series, and then it becomes sleeping in the afternoon. And then, people start getting bored in 1 year, 2 years. They get bored. They say, okay, you have so much time. You've been spending 70, 80 hours a week on work and travel and everything. You're going to have so much more time. What are you going to do with it? And they say, oh, I will work out. Okay. So that's 7 hours in a week. I'll spend more time with my family. Okay. Assuming the family wants to spend time with you. Okay. So that's maybe another 15 hours. So that you've accounted for 20 hours. So what about the rest of the 50 hours? Right. So this is coming as a big blind spot, I would say.
Of course.
It's a problem area, and people, individuals have to address this. What do you want to do with all of your time? Because time is a limited resource, but doesn't feel limited when you retire. It feels like it's going on. All the work is over, and it's only 11 o'clock in the morning, right? And it's dangerous because what happens, we're seeing is that once this boredom and this sets in, cognitive abilities start dropping. They're not challenged enough. People are not moving enough, right?
Correct.
So you're saying you're worrying about healthcare costs, right? This worrying is causing the healthcare problem.
Interesting.
So it's you don't know which one to solve for first, right? So it's a chicken and egg situation.
Absolutely.
And so when we get into retirement planning, we say you don't start with the calculator. The calculator can come later. Start with the calendar.
Yeah.
Figure out this year what are things that you want to be achieving this year, where are places you want to be visiting. Right, so put the big blocks of the calendar in order. Then you get into a weekly rhythm.
Okay.
Right, saying, okay, what are things that you want to do on a weekly basis? People say, oh, I want to work on my health. Very good. Okay, so what kinds? When? Morning, evening? Figure out. Okay, what are new hobbies you want to pick up? Who are new people you want to meet? Right, so you have a annual calendar, have a weekly rhythm. Right. Sure. So you're getting up in the morning saying, okay, yes, I'm looking forward to this day. Right. Not for anything else. You be happy. You will. But the money that you've worked so hard to build stays there for you to help your lifestyle.
Correct.
For your children, doesn't go to the hospital. That's when it hurts us a lot.
True.
When the money goes for medical reasons.
You're right.
So the idea is saying, when we look at in India, is retirement an issue? It is for individuals. You may say at a broad level, oh, we are a very young country. Economy. It may not be a problem for the government of the country, but for an individual, for that family, it is a big problem.
Absolutely.
Right? So it is urgent. There are a lot of people who are going to retire, and you rightly mentioned about that support ratio. With that dropping in India also, unless we solve for this, it is not. The problem is not going to go away by itself.
Absolutely.
It's not going to find its own way out. We have to do something about it. And it's not just one person's responsibility, is what I think.
True.
It's just like how you need a whole village to grow a child. So, who do you think need to play a part in this whole retirement time bomb that's ticking in India?
So, very interestingly, as you mentioned, it's not an individual's problem only. Of course, if an individual is planning his or her retirement, The first step would be definitely taken by them. So they play a huge role. But I think there are multiple factors involved.
Okay.
Because as you were mentioning about the family dynamics, when
Yes.
you retire, your family also, feel certain things. Your
Yes.
dynamics with
Yes.
them change. Your relationships change. Even your relationship with your spouse could change because now you suddenly
Absolutely.
have a lot of time together. One might want to go to Ladakh, one might want a ladle and a dhokla, whatever the preferences
There's a
are.
joke that says now I have half the money and twice my husband.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So things like these are real, right? We might joke about them, but some
Yeah.
people do struggle with
And
Yeah.
talk about the number of grey divorces, right? I mean, the
absolutely,
impact of this,
absolutely.
people wanting to move
Live
on.
their own
Yeah.
separate
Yeah.
lives.
He's not the guy I
Correct,
you know.
correct. Because the more you spend time with each other, the more you realize that you might want different things when you retire. But having said that, what it means is that there are certain dynamics that change when you retire.
Mm.
For you, your family, as well as the ancillary stakeholders.
Mm.
So, of course, the individual is responsible to a great extent to make their life successful. But it is also about the family.
Mm.
It is also about the industry, the manufacturers of these products that serve retirement, goal purposes. For example, insurance, mutual fund. So they are responsible as well to create that environment for somebody to find the right product at the right time
Yeah.
with the right intent. And then there are, advisors like you and your team who come into the picture to actually bridge that gap between I think I have enough to now I know what I have.
Yes.
That's equally important. And
That's
lastly,
certainty. That's clarity.
True. Absolutely. And then there are policy makers who eventually, orchestrate everything else
Yeah.
to support the entire narrative around one, accepting the fact that retirement planning is important.
Yes.
Secondly, doing enough to create an environment for everybody to realize it's important. And thirdly, acting upon or creating products for the benefit of the general public. But if we were to maybe drill down one at a time,
Yes.
and maybe start with the individual,
Yes.
I would like to know from you that what is it that is the individual's responsibility standalone to address retirement as an issue?
Okay. So I think for an individual who's planning a successful retirement, I would say staging, right? Successful aging, age successfully. Money plays a very important part. And without delaying retirement planning, I would think individuals should start early. I mean, there was a lot of insights that came from the research report, right? That said people who started early had like 5 times, 6 times more money than you start 10 years, 15 years
and
later.
lower regrets. What was interesting is that, 1/5 of the people who had retired, late or had started retirement planning later in their life actually regretted the fact that they should have started earlier.
Yeah. So just start early. Meaning to say, when you're just starting off, people like, our own team members, they would not think of retirement yet, right? So they're in your 20s and you're just thinking, oh, maybe I should just get married, I should buy a house, or maybe I should buy a car, or maybe just buy the next new gadget, right? So, or the holidays, right? So that's near-term goals, which is fine, which, I mean, you don't have youth forever, you must live a good life, but some part of your investments should go towards long-term. If let's say you're investing 10,000 rupees, at least 1,000 rupees should be going towards retirement that you're not touching. I'm saying as a percentage. Put away some part of your money towards retirement. But as your life situations change, as you have start having children and family, and as you grow older, that percentages can change between other goals and retirement as a goal. But from the very first paycheck, like we said, 30 years of working, 30 years of life, meaning every paycheck has one part that to support your today, and one part to support a 60-year-old, 61-year-old, 62-year-old yourself, right? So it's important to recognize that fact and for individuals to do this. And I think for families, we were talking about this rightly, having this conversation in the family.
Right.
about retirement, for the youngsters also to talk to your parents about, what are you looking at? What are your plans for retirement? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to, move back to your hometown? Do you want to move in with us? What is your plan? Right? So what is you want to be working? Do you have enough money? So children to have that conversation, and to parents also to be clear with the expectation. Right? So this is my expectation. I think I can manage for some time. If I don't, then this is when I'm going to seek help. So this, having this conversation and taking into cognizance that this is a big transition for the person who's going through it. It's not easy, right? It's not just the work or the job that they're walking away from. They're walking away from a sense of purpose.
Absolutely.
They're walking away from a title, from a sense of identity, right? I mean, I am vice president of a company. I am doctor. I am teacher. But tomorrow, say I'm nobody, right? So it's a really big transition for the person who's going through it, and it'd be great if families can be empathetic about it, can have this conversation, be mindful of what they're going through, and it is in this time that they're making a lot of big money decisions also. True. Right? So the expectations are always there. So dad has got a lot of money from his retirement corpus. I'm building a house. Can I have some money? Right? Correct. So managing those expectations become very difficult, because after retirement, it is a lot of time is going to be spent with family. Absolutely. And it makes sense to,
have that smooth relationship.
Smoothen that.
But these conversations are tough as well, right? When you deal with people, I'm sure you come across some tougher conversations also, because usually in Indian families and a traditional family, you don't do these money conversations very frequently.
But not so much now, no, Upasana. Okay. Now look at parents also, how they deal with children, right? So, I mean, no topic is taboo. We talk politics, we talk money, we talk sex, we talk girlfriend, boyfriend in the, in your dinner tables, right? If we're not talking of retirement 10 years, 15 years back. We were saying that, your parents have expectations from the children. Then that dynamic has changed. This also should change.
Fair enough. But that's interesting, right? So what I hear is that there's also a need to maybe encourage just plain conversations about retirement and, planning your life for both the parties, the one who's retiring and the one who might be around when the party is retiring.
Yes.
Both the conversations or listening to both the sides of the story is extremely important.
Yes.
For you to make the right calls at the right time.
Yes.
And, maybe that encouragement is what the entire stakeholders need to talk about.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it's very heartening to see. We've had a lot of these younger clients who are aspiring to build a better lifestyle, who become clients, who seek out professional help, bring their parents along. When they say, okay, now my parents are retiring, I think they should go through this with a little more awareness. So work with them as well, right?
That's very smart.
Which is children taking the initiative to ensure that this, which should happen a lot more. So there is a big role for, if you don't want the parents to be dependent on you, then take some initiative, make some, because it becomes, maybe they're not aware, right? It becomes important.
Fair.
And for the industry, I think there's a lot, this is just a lot more that can be done. Insurance for one, health insurance, there's a need for a lot of help on health insurance, getting claims, getting the policies, struggling with exemptions and co-pays, and oh my God, it's very complex. And then, but now, of course, there are a lot of government initiatives, just awareness about getting your Ayushman Bharat card.
Right.
It's now available for everybody over 70, right? Just those kind of awareness is necessary. A lot of noise has to be made, and make the whole process easier. Just go get your ABBA number, your Ayushman card, right? So those there's a lot of work there. Industry also there can be a lot of private partnerships. I'm just saying, even when a private company, a private insurance company, when they're making an ad or they're doing some promotional work, they can promote, okay, take a topper policy from us, but take your base from Ayushman Bharat.
Interesting.
Have some kind of...
That's the true ownership that you might expect from the industry stakeholders.
Of course, right? Yeah, if there is something that's available, create awareness, right? You have the mic with you.
So talking about awareness, I think, historically the kind of advertisement or the conversations that we've heard about retirement traditionally are fear-oriented, right? They're always... the moment you imagine a retirement campaign, you always imagine two old people sitting, with a very sad face and thinking about what do I do now. So
Yeah.
I think
But
that
that's
also changing. Yeah,
it's changing.
absolutely.
People are traveling. I mean, you have exciting.
Correct.
I mean, I remember 10 years back, there was this dignity Sarotake campaign, right? That was about 10, 15 years back because dignity was a big thing.
Yeah.
But now I don't even that narrative has changed.
That's changed.
It's not even about dignity. It's more about possibilities now, right? What more can you do? People are not old at 60 anymore.
True.
Right?
True.
So they're healthy, they're focusing on health. So there is a lot of focus. The policy in the industry can do a lot more. Family can do a lot more. And of course, employers, Upasana, I really want to know about it. You do work with a lot of people. Is retirement or supporting people who are retiring even in the periphery of employee wellness?
So it is somewhere in the periphery, but not amongst maybe top 2-3 challenges or priorities for the HRs currently.
No.
The people that we deal with, the primary interactions that we do, even some firms which are very employee oriented in nature might have done a tie-up with regard to NPS for their employees. Corporate tie-ups, etc., do exist. But still, the interactions we've had, we've not heard of retirement being amongst the top 2-3 priorities strategically for employee wellness or for the HR department overall yet.
No.
Another issue
but
is
why should they even bother, right? These people are leaving.
Correct. So you might as well do something for people who exist right now in your teams.
But that's very unfair, right? Because somebody who's retiring at 60 probably still healthy and is at the peak of their the wisdom, knowledge, true. Contribution. They potentially do a lot more if an opportunity was available.
True. But that's something that again the industry needs to come together to resolve, rather than one or two corporates being righteous enough to do something in this regard. It has to maybe a industry initiative. You have to do something together to make a difference in terms of numbers when it comes to aspects like retirement. It can't be a one-off corporate changing a policy for their employees. Plus, now a lot of firms are definitely aware about retirement, but maybe, as I said, in terms of priorities, it might come later in terms of doing something for people who are already there, who could be incentivized more, who could be incentivized with a voucher than a full-fledged retirement plan that they would see later in their life. So it's about instant gratification also, which is probably the reason why youngsters may not be immediately keen to understand the impact of what a retirement plan could do for them now. And I really like the fact that you mentioned that, this is for the first 30 years, every portion should go for current needs and what you need after those 30 years.
Yes.
But that's a practice. That's a practice somebody will have to build.
While we are focusing on employers and making possibilities for employees, it's also equally the responsibility of the employee to stay relevant.
True.
So you can't just tell them, oh yeah, you give me. So for them to be mentally alert, you see that dropping quite a bit, and being ahead, abreast of what's happening in the industry. So there is a lot of onus there.
Absolutely.
But employers,
could do much more.
Could do. Will they? Should they? Should they? Yes, but what's in it for them is still a question. I would say there's a lot of experience sitting there, and you're just letting it walk away. Why would you do that?
Correct.
Right. So, but we do try to reach out to corporates, saying, "Okay, we do a workshop. Yeah, good idea. That's all."
Correct.
Nothing much happens there. Correct. But when it comes to policy makers, I was reading something interesting from Singapore. Did you hear about that? So Singapore has something called proximity housing grant.
Okay.
So for a country like Singapore, who has a lot more older people than we do, the support ratio is probably much lesser there than here. So they want, of course, the government is keen to support. They do so. They have their healthcare support and everything, but they want to ensure the first level support is provided by the families.
Okay.
Right, which and then it comes at the second level for the companies to, the countries to take over.
Yeah.
So what they want to be doing is they have something called a policy housing grant, which supports with some sum of money, some $30,000, $40,000. If you build a house closer to your parents' house.
Oh, okay.
So you have to prove that you have a house within 3-4 kilometers of your parents' house, and you get money.
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean, I forget how much money and all that.
Right.
That the government is even thinking.
Correct.
So here we have these old age homes or those assisted living facilities that are somewhere outside the city. Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, there are places near Kopoli, somewhere here, idhar and all.
Yeah.
And for somebody from Bombay to even go there, it's like a couple of hours away, right?
Correct.
So,
but this is very interesting. What it essentially says is that the government also recognizes the fact that, the first level of support should come from the family.
yes.
It does come in majority of the cases from the family at times, but I think this is a concentrated effort to make sure that happens. And then in the second layer, maybe, the government steps in if need be.
If need be.
But that's exactly what you were talking about when it comes to industry making some changes.
Yes.
Or
like multi-generational
Correct.
homes, multi-generational places. Right? So there is a lot of benefit. And then there is the government is thinking of this is heartening, and maybe something that we can pick up from there.
Absolutely.
Apparently, the government does have some funds and all that to take care of elder care and stuff, but we don't know what it's being used for. But there's a lot of consolidated or concerted efforts that have to be taken by individuals, by employers, by the industry, and even by advisors like us.
Absolutely.
Right. So, you do work with many people. So, what do you think? Well, what is it that we are doing right, not doing right? We are doing everything right, but I'm saying the industry.
Correct. No, I think this subject in itself is interesting, but I do not think many advisors yet have taken this up as a mission towards a concentrated effort to just talk about retirement as the subject. When you talk about financial advisors, a lot of them, well-respected, reputed ones, of course, take care of a holistic view of, the individual or the family. But there are a very few who have recognized the fact that retirement as a subject needs special attention, and it needs special attention now. And that's something that's changing as well, and it's encouraging to see that a lot of advisors are now coming ahead and recognizing retirement as a subject.
Yes, because 10 years back in the industry conversations, we would say, why retirees? They're only going to be withdrawing money. Their wealth is not going to grow. So it's not a good a niche segment for us, a target audience for us to work on. But that's not true anymore. A lot of our clients have enough money for their lifetime. They leave behind money for their children. So even though they will withdraw, there is a lot of potential to work. Even if just talking in terms of business case, is there a business case to do this? There is a very strong business case to do it. But catch them before they retire.
Correct.
Because after they retire, then priorities have changed already. I think that this has been a very insightful conversation, Upasana. One, talking from research, saying that this is probably not something that we can put off. If we do put off, then you're letting a whole generation go into retirement without a plan.
Correct.
And as we see a lot of people moving in, as we meet more and more people in this process, we do realize that there's a lot of work for individuals to do. Don't live under the assumption that you're okay.
Correct.
Get a cross check. Get that medical test done.
See it for yourself.
See it for yourself. That clarity is so, this relieving. So once you know that, and then have this conversation with the families. And then for policymaker, for industry, communicate better, talk of possibilities, make it something, if people want to invest for some nice event, if you're investing for a wedding or for an education of the child, there is a positive reinforcement about it. Make retirement something like that, something that to look forward to. Let's make an attempt to do this private-public
Partnership or collaboration.
to say there are government facilities that are available, awareness is not there, take it across. I think that's a very, very critical part. And for policymakers to start thinking this is a problem. We are heading into this. You don't want a situation where that you have a lot of graying people waiting for help. So if tomorrow we are going to become a developed economy, we should have a way to support people who've been part of growing this economy.
Absolutely. Maybe talk about refinement a lot more than retirement. That could be the starting point, I believe.
Thanks for that push on the refinement. So don't retire, refire. It's time. The retirement is not the end. It's the beginning of something that's awesome. Another 1/3 of the life ahead from that point. Right?
True.
So, good. So this was great conversation, Upasana.
Lovely
and I hope there'll be a lot of takeaways for our audience from this.
Absolutely. That's what we hope. I think the idea of doing this is simply to make sure that we talk about retirement, refinement a lot more than what we have been doing over the past.
Yes. And in these talks, we intend to go deep into each of them.
Correct.
So in this series of conversations, we intend to talk a lot more, not just about money, of course about money, but a lot more about how you can have these conversations, about identity, about finding purpose and what to do with all of the money maybe, right? So stay tuned.